Welcome back. Now we're moving into a completely different topic, a topic that affects nearly everyone: relationships, specifically modern relationships. Because relationships today look very different from the relationships of previous generations. The way people meet, the way people communicate, the way people date, the way people define commitment. Almost everything has changed. Technology has changed. Society has changed. Cultural expectations have changed. And as a result, relationships have changed too. So the question becomes, what exactly defines a modern relationship? And how does it differ from traditional models? Let's explore. One of the most important characteristics of modern relationships is flexibility. In the past, relationships often followed very specific expectations. People knew what roles they were expected to play. Responsibilities were usually clear. Social rules were generally fixed. Today, relationships are often far more adaptable, far more individualized. Instead of following a predetermined script, many couples create their own structure. They discuss expectations. They negotiate responsibilities. They decide together what works best for their situation. Communication plays an enormous role in this process. Modern relationships depend heavily on open communication, honesty, transparency, and emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage emotions, both your own emotions and the emotions of others. In healthy modern relationships, this skill is often considered essential because relationships today are increasingly based on mutual understanding, not simply tradition. Another defining feature is individual autonomy. People generally want to maintain their own identities while being part of a partnership. They want connection, but they also want independence, personal growth, personal goals, and personal freedom. Modern relationships often attempt to balance both connection and individuality, togetherness and independence. To understand modern relationships better, it helps to compare them with traditional models. Historically, marriage was often viewed as a practical necessity, a social institution, an economic partnership. Gender roles were usually very clear. Men often served as primary providers. Women often managed the household. Social expectations were strong, and divorce was frequently stigmatized. Courtship also followed more structured rules. Families often played a significant role. Social approval mattered greatly, and relationships were often influenced by community expectations. Today, many of these assumptions have changed. Modern relationships place greater emphasis on emotional compatibility, shared values, mutual fulfillment, and personal happiness. Marriage remains important for many people, but it is no longer viewed as the only acceptable option. Many couples choose to cohabit, meaning they live together without being married. Others delay marriage. Some choose not to marry at all. These choices are increasingly accepted in many societies. Another major shift involves inclusivity. Modern relationships recognize a much wider range of identities, orientations, and relationship structures. This diversity has expanded our understanding of what relationships can look like. For generations, many people believed in the idea of a soulmate, one perfect person, one ideal match, someone destined to complete them. This idea remains popular, but modern perspectives often approach it differently. Instead of focusing on destiny, many people focus on compatibility, shared values, shared goals, emotional connection, mutual effort. The modern view often suggests that successful relationships are built, not discovered. They require communication, growth, commitment, and continuous effort. Rather than waiting for a perfect person to appear, many people focus on becoming a better partner themselves and building a healthy relationship through intentional choices. This shift changes the entire perspective. The emphasis moves from fate to personal responsibility, from finding to creating. No discussion of modern relationships would be complete without discussing technology. Technology has transformed how people connect. Dating apps, social media, online communities, video calls, instant messaging. All of these tools have expanded opportunities for connection. People can now meet potential partners from different cities, different countries, and even different continents. Relationships that once seemed impossible have become common. Technology has removed many geographical barriers, but technology also creates new challenges. More options do not always mean better experiences. Sometimes an abundance of choices can make commitment more difficult or create unrealistic expectations. And that leads us to some new vocabulary that has emerged in the modern dating world. As technology has become a larger part of daily life, it has also transformed dating. Today, many relationships begin online. People meet through dating apps, social media platforms, online communities, and messaging applications. For many individuals, this creates opportunities that did not exist before. Meeting new people has become easier. Communication is faster. Distance is less important, and connections can form across cities, countries, and even continents. However, modern dating has also created new challenges and new vocabulary. One term that has become extremely common is swipe culture. Swipe culture refers to the habit of making quick judgments about people based on limited information, often just a photograph, a short profile, or a few sentences. Many dating applications encourage rapid decision-making. Users swipe left, users swipe right, often within seconds. Supporters argue that these platforms create efficiency. Critics argue that they sometimes encourage superficial decision-making. Regardless of one's opinion, swipe culture has undeniably influenced modern dating behavior. Another widely used term is ghosting. Ghosting occurs when one person suddenly stops communicating. No explanation, no goodbye, no discussion. Messages go unanswered, calls are ignored, and communication ends. For the person being ghosted, the experience can feel confusing, frustrating, and emotionally difficult because closure never arrives. Ghosting has become one of the most discussed aspects of modern dating culture, partly because technology makes disappearing easier. Another important term is catfishing. Catfishing occurs when someone creates a false online identity. They may use someone else's photographs, invent personal details, or misrepresent themselves. The goal may vary: attention, validation, manipulation, or deception. Whatever the motivation, catfishing highlights the importance of caution when forming online relationships. Trust remains important, even in digital spaces. In fact, perhaps especially in digital spaces. Social media has created opportunities for connection, but it has also introduced new pressures. People now share carefully selected moments from their lives: vacations, achievements, celebrations, milestones. From the outside, everything appears perfect. Perfect relationships, perfect careers, perfect lifestyles, but reality is usually more complicated. Comparing real life to curated online content can create unrealistic expectations. Some people begin believing their own relationships should look like the relationships they see online. This can lead to disappointment, even when their relationship is healthy. Another challenge involves constant accessibility. In previous generations, communication often occurred at specific times. Today, many people expect immediate responses. A delayed reply can sometimes trigger anxiety. Questions begin appearing. Why haven't they responded? Are they upset? Did something happen? Modern communication moves quickly, sometimes too quickly. This is why healthy boundaries have become increasingly important. Technology should support relationships, not control them. Strong relationships still depend on trust, communication, respect, and emotional maturity. Technology can facilitate communication, but it cannot replace those foundations. Modern dating discussions often include the phrases red flags and green flags. A red flag is a warning sign, a behavior that may indicate potential problems. Examples might include dishonesty, manipulation, controlling behavior, chronic disrespect, or a complete inability to communicate effectively. A green flag represents something positive, a sign that a relationship may be healthy. Examples include honesty, emotional maturity, reliability, kindness, and respectful communication. It is important to remember that no person is perfect. Everyone has flaws. Everyone makes mistakes. The goal is not to find perfection. The goal is to identify patterns that support healthy relationships and patterns that undermine them. As people become more aware of emotional well-being, these discussions continue to play a larger role in modern relationship culture. One of the most interesting aspects of modern relationships is the changing nature of expectations. Many couples today discuss topics openly that previous generations may have simply assumed. Financial responsibilities, career priorities, family planning, household duties, personal boundaries, long-term goals. Rather than relying on traditional expectations, many people prefer direct conversations, clear communication, and shared decision-making. This approach does not eliminate conflict. No relationship is completely free from disagreements, but it often helps couples navigate challenges more effectively because expectations are discussed openly, not assumed silently. And when expectations become clear, misunderstandings often decrease. As relationships continue to evolve, new terms have entered everyday language. One of the most common is situationship. A situationship is a relationship that exists somewhere between friendship and a committed partnership. The people involved may spend significant time together, they may communicate regularly, they may even share a strong emotional connection, yet the relationship lacks clear definition. There is often uncertainty, questions such as, what are we? Where is this going? Are we exclusive? These questions frequently appear within situationships. Some people appreciate the flexibility, others find the ambiguity emotionally exhausting, because human beings often seek clarity, and clarity can be difficult to find when expectations have never been discussed openly. This brings us back to one recurring theme: communication. The healthier the communication, the easier it becomes to understand what both people want. Another topic that receives increasing attention is open relationships. An open relationship is a relationship in which partners agree that certain forms of romantic or physical involvement with other people are acceptable. The key word here is agreement, because openness requires communication, boundaries, trust, and mutual consent. Without those elements, confusion and conflict often emerge. Some people feel that open relationships provide greater freedom. Others prefer exclusivity. Neither preference is universally correct. Different people have different values, different priorities, and different relationship goals. The important point is that successful relationships depend on honesty, regardless of their structure. Another concept that is sometimes discussed is polyamory. Polyamory refers to the practice of maintaining multiple romantic relationships with the knowledge and consent of everyone involved. Again, this requires an extraordinary level of communication because managing emotions, expectations, and boundaries becomes increasingly complex. Whether people support or oppose these models, their growing visibility reflects a broader trend. Modern relationships are becoming more diverse and more individualized. People are increasingly choosing relationship structures that align with their personal values, rather than automatically following traditional expectations. Despite all these changes, one thing remains true. Most successful relationships still depend on commitment. Commitment does not necessarily mean marriage or living together or following a particular model. Commitment means showing up consistently, being reliable, being honest, being present, and investing effort into the relationship. Many people mistakenly assume that strong relationships develop automatically, but healthy relationships require maintenance, just like friendships, just like careers, just like physical health. Attention matters, communication matters, effort matters. A relationship cannot thrive indefinitely without investment. That investment often appears in simple forms: listening carefully, respecting boundaries, showing appreciation, supporting each other during difficult periods, celebrating successes together. Small actions often create the strongest foundations because trust is built gradually, one interaction at a time, one conversation at a time, one promise kept at a time. One challenge many modern couples face is balance. Balancing careers, balancing personal goals, balancing family responsibilities, balancing individual growth with shared growth. Modern life can be demanding. People often juggle multiple responsibilities: work, education, family, finances, health, social commitments, all at the same time. As a result, relationships sometimes compete for attention. This is why intentionality has become increasingly important. Healthy relationships rarely succeed by accident. They succeed because both people make deliberate choices: choices to communicate, choices to prioritize, choices to remain engaged even during busy periods. Balance does not mean everything receives equal attention all the time. Balance means adjusting thoughtfully as circumstances change. Sometimes work requires more focus. Sometimes family does. Sometimes personal growth does. Strong relationships adapt, they evolve, and they remain flexible without losing their core foundation. As relationship culture evolves, language evolves too. New expressions appear, new concepts emerge, and understanding them helps advanced English learners navigate contemporary conversations. For example, define the relationship, often shortened to DTR. This means having a conversation about the nature of the relationship, clarifying expectations, clarifying intentions, clarifying commitment. Another common expression: on the same page. This means sharing the same understanding of a situation. For example, before making plans, we should make sure we're on the same page. Another frequently used phrase: mixed signals. Mixed signals occur when someone's words and actions send conflicting messages. For example, they say they are interested, but they rarely communicate. Those are mixed signals. Understanding expressions like these helps learners participate more naturally in modern English discussions, because language constantly adapts to social change, and relationships remain one area where language evolves most rapidly. One of the most significant changes in modern relationships involves gender roles. For much of history, many societies maintained very clear expectations. Men were often expected to provide financially. Women were often expected to manage the household. These expectations were deeply embedded within cultural traditions. For many people, they felt normal, natural, even unquestionable. But societies evolve, and as societies evolve, relationship expectations evolve too. Today, many couples approach roles in a much more flexible way. Instead of asking, "What should a man do?" or "What should a woman do?" many people now ask, "What works best for us?" This shift has created new opportunities and new conversations. Modern relationships often emphasize partnership. Rather than assigning responsibilities based solely on gender, many couples distribute responsibilities based on circumstances, skills, preferences, and availability. For example, one partner may earn more income. The other partner may contribute more time to household responsibilities. Or perhaps both partners share financial obligations and household responsibilities. The specific arrangement matters less than the level of agreement. What matters is whether both individuals feel respected, valued, and heard. This is where communication becomes essential once again. Assumptions often create conflict. Conversations often create solutions. The more openly expectations are discussed, the easier it becomes to avoid misunderstandings. Because many disagreements do not originate from bad intentions, they originate from different expectations. One important concept that is frequently misunderstood is equality. Equality does not necessarily mean both people perform exactly the same tasks or contribute in exactly the same ways. Equality often means that both people are treated with equal respect, equal dignity, equal consideration, and equal opportunity to participate in decisions. Healthy relationships recognize individual strengths, individual preferences, and individual circumstances. Two people may contribute differently, yet still contribute equally to the success of the relationship. For example, one person may provide financial support, the other may provide organizational support, emotional support, or caregiving support. Different contributions, equal value. This perspective has become increasingly common within modern discussions about relationships. No relationship is completely free from conflict. Disagreements are normal. Differences are normal. Even misunderstandings are normal. What often determines relationship success is not the absence of conflict, it is the way conflict is handled. Some people approach disagreements as battles, arguments to win, problems to dominate. But healthy communication usually follows a different approach. The goal is understanding, not victory. Consider two approaches. The first person says, "You're always wrong. You never listen. You don't care." This language often increases defensiveness and makes solutions more difficult. Now consider a different approach. "I feel frustrated when I don't feel heard. Can we talk about this?" The message remains similar, but the delivery creates a different outcome. The second approach focuses on communication rather than accusation. This distinction can dramatically improve relationship quality because people are generally more willing to listen when they do not feel attacked. Another topic that appears frequently in modern relationship discussions is emotional labor. Emotional labor refers to the effort involved in managing emotions, maintaining relationships, and supporting others emotionally. Examples may include remembering important dates, planning family events, checking on loved ones, resolving interpersonal tensions, or providing emotional support during difficult periods. Historically, many societies expected one partner to perform a larger share of this invisible work. Today, many couples discuss emotional labor more openly because although emotional labor is invisible, it still requires effort, time, energy, and attention. Recognizing these contributions helps create greater appreciation and greater fairness within relationships. Another interesting aspect of modern relationships is the difference between generations. Different generations often hold different beliefs about relationships, marriage, commitment, career priorities, parenting, and gender roles. What seemed normal to one generation may feel outdated to another. Likewise, what seems obvious to younger generations may feel unfamiliar to older generations. Neither perspective is necessarily wrong. They simply reflect different historical experiences, different cultural influences, and different social environments. Understanding these differences can improve communication, not only within relationships, but also within families, communities, and society as a whole, because empathy grows when people understand why others see the world differently. If there is one principle that appears consistently across healthy relationships, it is respect. Respect for opinions, respect for boundaries, respect for individuality, respect for differences. Two people do not need to agree about everything. In fact, they rarely will, but they do need to respect one another because respect creates trust. Trust creates security, and security creates the environment where healthy relationships can grow. Whether a relationship is traditional, modern, long distance, married, unmarried, or somewhere in between, respect remains essential. Without it, even strong relationships often struggle. With it, relationships gain stability and resilience. Let's review some useful vocabulary. Partnership, a relationship based on cooperation and shared responsibility. Autonomy, the ability to make independent decisions. Equality, the principle of equal respect, rights, and opportunities. Compromise, an agreement reached when both sides make adjustments. Empathy, the ability to understand and share another person's feelings. Emotional labor, the effort involved in managing emotions, maintaining relationships, and supporting others emotionally. Mutual respect, respect shared between two people. These terms appear frequently in discussions about modern relationships, and mastering them helps you communicate more effectively at advanced levels. As the world becomes more connected, cross-cultural relationships have become increasingly common. People travel more, study abroad more frequently, work internationally, and connect online with people from different countries and backgrounds. As a result, many relationships now involve two individuals who were raised in different cultures, different languages, different traditions, different social expectations. These relationships can be incredibly rewarding, but they can also present unique challenges. Because culture influences far more than many people realize. It shapes communication styles, family expectations, social norms, attitudes toward conflict, expressions of affection, and even perceptions of time. One of the most common challenges in cross-cultural relationships involves communication, not language, communication. Because even when two people speak the same language fluently, they may still communicate very differently. In some cultures, direct communication is highly valued. People express opinions openly. Feedback is often clear, and honesty is viewed as respectful. In other cultures, communication may be more indirect. People prioritize harmony. They may avoid confrontation, and they often communicate through implication rather than explicit statements. Neither approach is inherently better, they are simply different. Problems arise when people assume their own communication style is universal. Imagine one partner saying, "Why don't you just tell me what you really think?" while the other partner thinks, "Why are you being so blunt?" Neither person has bad intentions, they simply learned different communication habits. Understanding this difference can prevent many misunderstandings. Family expectations can also vary significantly. In some cultures, family involvement plays a major role in relationships. Parents, siblings, extended relatives, their opinions may carry substantial weight. In other cultures, individual independence is emphasized. People are expected to make decisions primarily for themselves. These differences can create tension if they are not discussed openly. For example, one partner may expect frequent family gatherings, the other may value greater privacy. One person may view family consultation as respectful, the other may view it as unnecessary interference. Neither perspective is automatically right. The challenge is learning how to navigate these differences together. Even perceptions of time can vary across cultures. In some societies, punctuality is extremely important. Being late may be viewed as disrespectful. Schedules are followed closely. Deadlines are taken seriously. In other cultures, time is often viewed more flexibly. Relationships may take priority over strict schedules. Conversations may continue longer than planned. Plans may change more easily. These differences can seem minor, but over time they can influence daily interactions, expectations, and frustrations. The key is awareness. Once people understand that cultural differences exist, they can begin adapting, and adaptation is one of the most valuable skills in any relationship. Language itself also plays an important role. For many people, language is deeply connected to identity. It carries memories, values, experiences, and emotional meaning. In multilingual relationships, language choices sometimes influence how people express themselves. One partner may feel more comfortable discussing emotions in their native language. Another may feel more confident using a second language. This dynamic can create interesting situations. Sometimes people understand the words being spoken, but miss the emotional nuance behind them. That is why patience is so important. Not just linguistic patience, emotional patience. Cross-cultural communication often requires extra clarification, extra listening, and extra empathy. But the rewards can be significant because exposure to different perspectives often broadens understanding, not only of other people, but also of yourself. Another challenge in cross-cultural relationships involves stereotypes. A stereotype is a simplified belief about a group of people. Some stereotypes may appear positive, others negative, but stereotypes rarely capture the complexity of real individuals. Every person is unique, even within the same culture. Assumptions can create barriers. Curiosity creates understanding. That is why asking questions is often more useful than making assumptions. Instead of thinking, people from that country always behave this way, it is often better to ask, how do you see this situation? What does this mean to you? What is your experience? These questions create opportunities for genuine understanding, and genuine understanding is one of the foundations of strong relationships. At advanced levels of communication, another skill becomes important: cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is the ability to interact effectively with people from different cultural backgrounds. It involves awareness, adaptability, curiosity, and respect. People with strong cultural intelligence do not assume their way is the only way. Instead, they remain open to learning, open to understanding, and open to adjusting their communication style when necessary. In today's globalized world, this skill has become increasingly valuable, not only in relationships, but in business, education, travel, and professional environments. The ability to communicate across cultures is one of the most important skills of the modern era. Let's review some useful vocabulary. Cultural awareness, understanding how culture influences behavior. Adaptability, the ability to adjust to new situations. Perspective, a particular way of viewing something. Assumption, a belief accepted without complete evidence. Diversity, the presence of different backgrounds, experiences, or perspectives. Inclusion, creating environments where different people feel valued and respected. Cultural intelligence, the ability to interact across cultures. These words appear frequently in discussions about global communication, and mastering them helps advanced learners participate confidently in international conversations. Now that we have explored modern relationships, communication, equality, and cross-cultural dynamics, it is time to focus on language itself. Because advanced learners do not simply understand ideas, they know how to discuss them naturally, confidently, and with precision. Let's begin with some useful vocabulary. Compatibility is one of the most common concepts in relationship discussions. Compatibility refers to how well two people function together. It includes values, communication styles, life goals, personalities, and expectations. Two people can care deeply about each other, yet still struggle with compatibility, because emotional connection and compatibility are not always identical. For example, they care about each other, but they want completely different futures. In that situation, compatibility may become a challenge. Another essential concept is compromise. Compromise occurs when two people adjust their preferences to reach a mutually acceptable solution. Healthy relationships often require compromise, not because someone wins and someone loses, but because both people value the relationship enough to find common ground. For example, one person wants to spend the holidays with their family. The other person has different plans. A compromise allows both perspectives to be considered. Compromise is not weakness. It is often a sign of maturity. Another important word is vulnerability. Vulnerability means allowing yourself to be emotionally open. It means sharing fears, insecurities, hopes, dreams, and personal experiences. Many people find vulnerability difficult because openness involves risk, but meaningful relationships often require vulnerability. Trust grows when people feel safe enough to be honest, and honesty often begins with vulnerability. A phrase frequently used in modern relationship discussions is emotional availability. An emotionally available person is capable of sharing emotions, receiving emotions, and participating in emotional connection. Someone who avoids all emotional conversations may be described as emotionally unavailable. This concept appears frequently in modern psychology, relationship coaching, and self-development discussions because emotional connection often plays a central role in long-term relationship success. Now let's explore some useful idioms. The first one is hit it off. If two people hit it off, they immediately connect well. They enjoy each other's company. Conversation feels easy. For example, they met at a conference and immediately hit it off. Another common expression, on the rocks. If a relationship is on the rocks, it is experiencing difficulties. For example, their relationship has been on the rocks for several months. Another useful idiom, head over heels. This means deeply in love. For example, he fell head over heels for her. Another expression, break the ice. This means to reduce tension and start conversation. For example, a simple joke helped break the ice. These expressions appear frequently in movies, television, books, and everyday conversations. Understanding them helps advanced learners sound more natural and understand native speakers more easily. Now let's imagine a realistic conversation. Two friends, Sophia and Daniel, discussing relationships. Sophia asks, "Do you think compatibility is more important than attraction?" Daniel thinks for a moment. "Attraction matters, but I think compatibility is more important in the long run." "Why?" Sophia asks. "Because attraction can change over time, but shared values, communication, and trust create stability." Sophia nods. "That's a good point. I think both are important, but I agree that compatibility probably determines whether a relationship lasts." Daniel smiles. "Exactly. Attraction may start the relationship, compatibility often sustains it." Sophia asks another question. "Do you think technology has improved relationships?" Daniel pauses. "I think it has done both. It has created opportunities, but it has also created distractions. People can communicate instantly, but sometimes they communicate less meaningfully. Sophia laughs. That's true. Some people text constantly, yet still struggle to have meaningful conversations. Daniel agrees. Technology can support connection, but it cannot replace real communication. This type of discussion is extremely valuable for advanced learners because there are no simple answers, only perspectives, opinions, arguments, and nuanced ideas. The ability to discuss complex topics calmly and thoughtfully is one of the clearest signs of advanced fluency. At advanced levels, language learning becomes something more. You are no longer simply learning vocabulary or grammar. You are learning to think through English, to analyze, to compare, to evaluate, to explain, and to defend ideas. This is why discussion-based learning becomes increasingly valuable. Topics such as relationships, technology, business, ethics, education, culture, and society allow learners to practice English at a much deeper level. The goal is not always agreement. The goal is thoughtful communication, the ability to understand different perspectives and express your own perspective clearly and respectfully. That ability extends far beyond language. As we reach the end of this lesson, let's step back and look at the bigger picture. We began our journey by discussing advanced English, vocabulary, fluency, pronunciation, grammar, communication. Then we explored business, entrepreneurship, career development, success, decision-making. And finally, we examined relationships, technology, culture, human connection, and the changing nature of modern life. At first glance, these topics may seem different, but they share something important: communication. Every topic we discussed depends on communication. Careers depend on communication. Businesses depend on communication. Relationships depend on communication. Leadership depends on communication. Even personal growth depends on communication, because communication is how we share ideas, how we solve problems, how we build trust, how we create opportunities, and how we connect with other people. Many learners spend years thinking about English as a subject, a school subject, a collection of rules, vocabulary lists, grammar exercises, exams, certificates. And while those things have value, they are not the ultimate goal. Language is a tool for connection, a tool for understanding, a tool for expression. The purpose of learning English is not simply to know English. The purpose is to use English, to communicate, to learn, to build relationships, to exchange ideas, to participate in a larger world. And the more advanced your English becomes, the more opportunities become available. New conversations, new friendships, new experiences, new perspectives, and sometimes entirely new directions in life. One quality appears repeatedly among successful learners: curiosity. Curious people continue learning. They continue asking questions. They continue exploring ideas. They remain open to different perspectives. And that curiosity extends beyond language. Curiosity helps people understand cultures, businesses, relationships, history, science, and society. The most effective communicators are rarely the people who know everything. They are often the people who remain interested in learning, because curiosity creates growth, and growth creates opportunity. Before we finish, there is one important reminder. You do not need perfect English. You do not need perfect pronunciation. You do not need perfect grammar. You do not need perfect vocabulary. Perfection is not the goal. Progress is the goal. Every advanced speaker was once a beginner. Every fluent speaker made mistakes. Every confident communicator experienced uncertainty. Improvement happens through use, through repetition, through effort, and through patience. Mistakes are not evidence of failure. They are evidence of participation, evidence that you are learning, evidence that you are growing, and evidence that you are moving forward. One of the most powerful signs of progress is when English begins to feel natural, when you stop translating, when ideas begin appearing directly in English, when conversations flow more easily, when understanding requires less effort. That transformation does not happen overnight. It develops gradually, through exposure, through practice, through consistent use, one conversation at a time, one article at a time, one podcast at a time, one lesson at a time. Eventually, you realize that English is no longer something you're studying, it becomes something you are using, and that is an extraordinary milestone. As we finish, consider this question: where do you want your English to take you? Perhaps you want better career opportunities. Perhaps you want to travel. Perhaps you want to study abroad. Perhaps you simply enjoy learning. Whatever your reason, keep it in mind, because meaningful goals provide direction, and direction helps sustain motivation. Whenever learning feels difficult, remember why you started. Remember what you are building. Remember where you want to go. The truth is, language learning never really ends. Even native speakers continue learning new words, new ideas, new perspectives, new ways of communicating. That's what makes language so fascinating. There is always more to discover, more to understand, more to explore. So continue reading, continue listening, continue speaking, continue asking questions, continue challenging yourself, and most importantly, continue communicating. Because communication is one of the most valuable skills a person can develop. Thank you for spending this time with me. I hope this lesson helped you think more deeply, not only about English, but also about communication, relationships, business, culture, and the world around you. Keep learning, keep growing, keep improving, and keep believing in your ability to reach even higher levels of fluency. Your progress is already happening, one conversation, one idea, one day at a time. Thank you for listening. Take care, keep practicing, and I'll see you in the next lesson.